Hey everyone, it's Leanne. Welcome to another video on my channel. Today I'm making a fairy card. I love this stamp set and I created this card for my niece for her birthday using a lot of bright, pretty distress ink colors. So let's begin. So I'm starting with an A2 size folded card as usual. This is 5.5 by 4.25 face, and I've cut that twice as wide and then folded down the center. I'm going to be using a piece of mixed media cardstock, and I've cut this to the same A2 size because I want that to be the full height and width of my card. I also have a piece of generic cardstock, and so I'm going to use this to do my die cutting out of. I'm using some generic circle templates. These are from We Are Memory Keepers, I think it's called, and I picked these up at Michael's, a bag of them. So I have 2 different sizes, and I want to do 3 die cuts like this with the sentiment down in the corner. So I'm going to be using those. I'm going to be doing some distress ink coloring, and so some combinations that I'm going to do are Picked Raspberry and Wilted Violet, and then Peacock Feather and Mermaid Lagoon, and then Squeezed Lemonade and Carved Pumpkin. And so these will be the backgrounds for the circle dies. I'm going to be using the popular and beautiful Fairy Friends stamp set from Lawn Fawn. This is such a gorgeous stamp set, and I've gotten so much mileage out of this. And I like this version is the summer version, so I thought it would be appropriate for a summer birthday card. And then for extra tools, I have my acrylic stamping block to put my stamps on, and my Memento Tuxedo Black ink for printing. So let's get started. So first I want to mark out the position for my dies. I'm going to use some Post-it tape from 3M Post-it to hold these down when I run them through my Sizzix die cutting machine, but I want to position these first. So I'm going to use the bigger circle to do a cut on the top and the bottom, and I want to put this one in the middle on the right. So I just want to find the center line of this card. So this height is 5.5, which half of that would be 2.75. I'm going to measure in off the 1 inch, so adding an inch to my measurement would bring it down to, or bring it up to 3.75. So the center is going to be about here, ideally, from the 1. 3.75, and just checking that, 3.75. The reason why I measure starting at the 1 is because my measurements go right to the edge of my ruler here. So I'm not getting an accurate measurement if I use the end of this ruler. It could be cut off by a centimeter or a millimeter. And so I always come in on the 1 and know that I've got a nice clean measurement there. So that's a little trick if your ruler goes to the end. Now that I know where the position of the center is, I'm going to use that line, and I'll just put my pencil here so you can see where that is. And I'm just going to use that as an estimate to position the spacing for these circles. So just making sure that that looks good. I'm going to put that up a little bit, and we should be good on the circles there. So just 2 pieces of tape should be fine for this. I like to put it towards the center because that's the part that I'll be cutting out. And if there's any marks from the tape, when it runs through the Sizzix, it'll be on those pieces that I'm going to toss away. So I'm going to run this through my Sizzix next, and then I'll do the final circle after I have these done. Okay, so the exciting thing with my new camera is you can see all of my desk or a lot more. So I can show you running this through my Sizzix machine, which I would normally have to do off camera because I couldn't get it in frame. So I'm just going to lay this on the template here, the cutting plates, I mean. And then I'm using a piece of just regular printer paper. And I do this because my cutting plates have a lot of cuts in them, and so I don't want those markings to show through on my artwork. So I usually just tuck a piece of printer paper over top, and it protects it and prevents those marks from showing. It works really well. So I'm just turning the handle here and running it through. Hopefully there's not too much shake of my desk there. And then these should be popped out. Nice and easy, simple, there we go. And then I'm just going to reuse this one to do one more circle quickly on the bottom part of the card to get the last cut. So I'm just going to eyeball this. And so I'm going to do the same thing. I have the paper and then the template over top, or the cutting plate, and then just roll it the opposite direction. And then there I have my template for the card, so I'm really excited. That's easy to run through. Now let's get ready to prepare the backgrounds for the fairies. Okay, so now I'm going to come in with my mixed media paper and mark out where I want my distress ink backgrounds created on that page so that they match the window holes that I've created. I'm going to take my HB pencil and just lightly run along the edge of the circles onto the mixed media paper so that I have that as a guide. And so now I want to get ready for blending. I have the other part of my paper from my Sizzix. I'm just going to use that as a spare for doing my blending. So for the blending, I want to start with the picked raspberry and wilted violet. And I'm going to use the picked raspberry on the top and then the wilted violet at the bottom of the circle. Now I want to make sure that I don't go into these areas, so I'm going to put a little post-it tape just to keep that area safe. Make a couple spots here, and I will know as my guide that I don't want to go into that area. So just kind of creating a little mask. If you had some masking paper, the sticky white paper, you could also cut out another circle with your template of the same size and put over. I don't have any of that on hand, so this is going to be my workaround. So I'm just speeding up the video here while I color in the circles with the distress inks. I have 2 colors for each circle, and I'm using the same structure of a top and bottom color blending together in the middle. So now I tried to work in circles, just kind of creating an arc around with the background. And I'm just going to overlay my template just so you can see. And so there's a look at what that would look like with that background. So you can see that the pencil line just completely gone away with the ink blending as well, which is nice. So that's hidden. Okay, so now I've masked this and I'm going to do the blending for the bottom, and I want the lighter half up here, which will be the peacock feather, and then I'm going to put the darker half, the mermaid lagoon, at the bottom. So with each circle that I've created, I've just masked it off with my post-it tape, and I'm just going in and doing my blending the same as I did for my very first circle with the top and bottom arc. And then finishing up with the last one, I love this squeezed lemonade. It's such a pretty color. I love these distress inks, and just pairing it with that carved pumpkin looks really nice. So I'm going to come in and just clean up the edges here because I want to do my window with foam tape. And so I don't want the edges to show where I've stopped coloring. So I'm just going to do the inset of these edges a little bit just so that if you look in before you hit the foam tape, you would see that there's still color there. So I'm just going to take some of the colors that I used and run them along the edge, and nothing too extreme or fancy, just cleaning up where we have empty spaces. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside to dry, so that should be pretty good. So now I'm getting ready to do my COPIC coloring and stamping for the fairies themselves. I'm cutting off a piece of Neenah Solar White cardstock, and I'm just using my stamp as a general guide to see how high I need that paper to be to do the stamping for the fairies. I'm only doing 3 fairies, so I don't need a lot of paper to do this. There are 3 fairies in this stamp set, so I'm going to use each one of those in each of the windows. I'm stamping this out with Memento Tuxedo Black ink, which works really well with the COPIC markers. Now for the coloring, I'm doing very simple shading and coloring for the base for everything. I'm using the same skin tones for each one, and I'll put those colors in the description below along with links to those COPIC colors if you're looking for any in particular. So again, just doing simple shading underneath the hairline and then along the tops of the arms where the dress meets and the tops of the legs at the bottom of the dress. For each of the hairstyles, I'm doing different colors and different color combinations, but I will be doing the same technique for each hair. So just wispy flicks of my brush, starting from the outer edge of the hairline and then wisping up into the center area while maintaining a highlight across the top of the head. So if you imagine the curvature of the head, you're going to have an arc for that highlight line, and it's going to be sort of like a semicircle across the top of the head. And so you can see the whiter areas where that highlight naturally sits after I've completed flicking the brush up into that highlight area. And so I'm doing this technique for every fairy, they generally have the same hairstyle for each one of them, so it makes it a little easier there. I start with a light base just to work out where I want that highlight line to be. And when I use the lighter color base, it's more forgiving. So if I decide that I want to shift that line a little bit and I find that the highlight line's a little off center, for instance, then when I come in with my second color, which is the medium tone, then I can make that adjustment pretty easily. And then I use a darker tone in that hair and all of the areas actually, just to deepen those shadows just a little bit more. Now for the dresses, I'm doing very simple coloring on these as well. I'm laying down a lighter color and then coming in with a shadow color from beneath the back of the neck down the back of the dress, and then just tapering it out kind of like a triangle shape on the front of the dress. And then once I lay down my shadow color, I like to come in with my base color, which is my lighter color, and just blend that edge a little bit more. So I've tried to use a color combination that's kind of harmonious to the three fairies, but keeps each one of them in a different dress color with a different hair color. And then I've also done the wings as well, so I'm just using the lightest color from each of my color sets, my color groupings, to create the little wispy lines on the wings as well for the fairies. So now that I have the fairies all colored and ready to go, I'm going to pop them out with my coordinating dies, just running these through my Sizzix Big Kick machine. So using a little post-it tape, I'm going to put those dies into place, and then I have these all ready and they pop out super easy. Okay, so I have my card ready to assemble, but what I want to do first is stamp my sentiment on the bottom. So I'm going to use the Have a Magical Day sentiment, but I want to stack it. I don't want to just do one line. I obviously don't have enough room for that, and that wasn't really what I planned. So I'm going to move everything out of the way. I'm going to use this first because I can lay it flat and stamp it perfect. When you have a long stamp like this, I find it's really handy if you lay it down on your desk and then pick it up. I find if you try to line it up on your acrylic block, even though you have grid lines maybe, it's hard because it can twist and bend. So I find that I get the straightest angle or positioning when I do it like this. Now, my longest word in the sentiment is magical, so I want to stamp that first. That's going to be my anchor sentence or my anchor word that I'm going to build my phrase around. So I'm going to mask off anything I don't want to stamp, and that's easily done with the post-it tape. I'm going to use Memento Tuxedo Black ink, the same stamping ink that I used for the fairies. So I do have a little bit that I didn't cover up here, and I'm just going to take a baby wipe and clean that off so that it doesn't end up on my card. I'll make sure that I got all of that, and then make sure you pull off the post-it tapes before you stamp. I've done that before and it makes a mess. So I want this in the center, kind of using my guidelines, vertical center. So center sort of in this area, I guess. Now I want the phrase have a, and I'm going to put that at the top. So I will mask off magical this time. Now I want this right aligned, so I'm going to try to match it up with magical. So I think that's looking good so far. And then I want to do the day sentiment. So one more masking on the word magical, and I didn't take my tape big enough, so I'm going to have to grab another piece here. And I want to leave room for my exclamation point as well. So I'm going to tuck that right into the curl on day, and that fits perfect there. And I like how whimsical the stacked lettering looks. It kind of gives a nice visual structure to the sentence. It's not one line. It kind of creates a little interest with this ragged edge. So now I'm ready to begin building my card, and I'm really excited to see it come together. I'm going to use some post-it tape to put this on with, or sorry, I'm going to use some foam tape to put this on with, and I wanted to make sure before I did this that this was nice and dry, because tape doesn't stick very well to distress inks if it's wet. So you want to make sure that that's dry. The way I'm going to put this card on is I'm going to line it up and make sure that the edges match. So I'm going to just do the bottom first and then work my way on it. So I want to make sure that the edges of the frame are supported.
Anywhere that I have a circle close to the edge, I'll cut my tape in half so that I can put a thinner piece of Post-it tape but still support that thinner edge. I'm going to come in with some thinner pieces just around those circles. I want to make sure that they're well supported in those thinner areas because they're going to be the most vulnerable. And then I just want to put a couple pieces around. Okay, so the way I want to do this to make sure that it lines up is I want to start with the bottom edge first and then slowly peel away the backing and add the tape as I go. I want to make sure that I've got it straight. So I'm going to peel off the bottom area first to start, and we'll see how that goes, and then we'll go from there. There's a few pieces in this bottom area, so I do need to peel them all because I won't be able to reach them if I were to leave, say, this corner piece. Now again, I find it's easier to line things up on their not the folded edge, I guess this time, but on their edge, with just the edges of my hand and the edges of the desk. And that's working perfectly. So now I'm going to go and pull off the rest. So it'll be a little bit tricky on these tighter areas, but I can still reach it. And I think we'll be fine here. Okay, I'm just going to lay this down and very carefully. And there we go. This is looking so awesome. I love these bright colors. Okay, so I'm ready to put my fairies in. I want to put them on some Post-it tape too. I can actually use that extra piece I had. So I'm going to put the fairies in a certain order. So I want to put my brunette fairy with my yellow dress at the top. I want this one down here, and then the red-haired or cotton candy colored hair one in the middle with the teal dress. So now I'm just going to put these on with some Post-it tape. Very, very easy. And I'm going to bring in my X-Acto knife just to get it center. I don't want it not to be center in this circle. Final touch that I want to do is some clear glitter with a wink of Stella. I love this pen. I have had this for a couple years and it's not run out yet, and I say that and it'll probably run out, hopefully not, but it seems like it's got quite a bit of ink every time I use it. So I just want to put this on the fairies and on their wings particularly. So there's a look at the finished card. Now I'm just going to put this on the back of my folded cardstock. So I just want to mount this. I'm going to keep it very simple. I love how crisp the white looks against the colored backgrounds. And so I'm not going to add too much embellishment there. I want to leave this nice and clean and simple. And just going to line this up on the folded edge of my card. I find that's the easiest way to get it straight. And it seems to be a little long on the top, so I'm just going to trim that off. That's going to be super easy. So I'm going to grab my craft mat and a ruler. I just want to match up the edge that I have with the fairies. I can see some of the pink overhanging as well, so I'm just going to run my knife very carefully multiple times, holding my ruler very steady. And that edge is nice and cleaned up.
So now just to add a finishing touch, I'm going to put some sequins on the front, just some random scattered places on the white area, just to dress it up a little bit more.
I just have some Elmer's craft glue that I'm going to put a little bit on a scrap piece of paper to pick this up with. And then I'll put a little bit on my knife. You can use little craft tools for this too. I like to use my knife just because I have it handy and it works. So that adds just a little bit of sparkle to the card as well.
So here's a look at the completed card, a little bit of a close-up. You can see the detail there, and I'm really excited with how this turned out. It's pretty simple, but it came out really nice, and my niece was really pleased with it too. If you did like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe so you're notified as I post more videos. And if you hit the bell, you'll be notified as they go live too. Thank you so much for watching.